today we're going to really talk about the senses themselves and how we use those senses, particularly this week is the mouth. And if you're familiar with the three monkeys, right? Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And when you hear the word evil, how does it make you feel? Bad. So you might have a traditional relationship with that word, maybe more orthodox kind of, So yeah, it does mean bad, right? Something that's bad. But if you think about words and think about where they came from, or try to understand for yourself, what does it really mean, right? So breaking down the word evil, so hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil, right? And in Raj Yoga we say, do no evil, think no evil also. But evil is just living backwards. Evil is live spelled backwards. So that which is evil is just what I'm doing that's not in my best interest. Right? So I'm just basically, in life is all an energy game, right? And so we want to do in life what gives me more energy, right? Because that's what life is about. It's about living it like in vibrance, being radiant in life. If I'm going to be vibrant in life, I have to live it accurately and do those things that give me more life, right? But if I'm living backwards, I'm doing the things that take away my energy. And that's all evil is. It's just doing things that take my energy in the wrong direction and don't give me life. Like similarly, the word sin means minus in Spanish, right? So to sin is just to debit my account instead of adding in my account. I'm debiting my karmic account. I'm debiting my energetic account, right? So when we see those monkeys, see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil, it's really saying, don't do anything through your senses that will reduce your life force, that will not add to your being, that will not add to your wonderful experience of being in this body, right? So last week it was more about listening, right? Not to hear, and how you hear. And this week it's about how we use the mouth. How am I using my mouth? Am I speaking evil? So am I saying things through my mouth that reduce my energy? Am I saying things through my mouth that reduce someone else's energy? Right? And when in the Raj Yoga meditation course, the first lessons talk about thoughts, right? And talks about good thoughts, bad thoughts, wasteful thoughts, right? All of those. So when we speak, our words are coming from, we have to have a thought first, right? Or a feeling. So my mind is creating a thought, and then I speak the words. So if my mind is thinking wasteful things that are not really necessary or beneficial, and it could be something that is necessary, but I'm thinking it so many times it becomes wasteful, right? Like if I do something once and I finish it, then that's necessary. But if I continue to recheck if I did it, it becomes wasting my time, wasting my thoughts, wasting my energy. So having a spiritual mouth means that what comes out of my mouth is giving life. It's a creative force. And so when people are in my presence, when they hear my words, it's not just to fill the space, and it's not just because I want to hear myself talk. It's because those words have purpose, and they have benevolence in them, and they have a intention, right? And you, as souls, we're naturally silent. Originally, we are silent, very peacefully silent. So, on the deepest level, we really don't like extra noise. We don't like words just for words, right? But we've gotten used to this thing of noise. We've gotten used to small talk and just speaking just to speak. Because, in a sense, we've forgotten the value of the words that we have, of the words we use. So, you'll notice when you, let's say a friend of yours is in need, they're in a dilemma, and you speak to them, you give them some advice, and you feel like it's just flowing through you for them. How do you feel after that moment when you give them, you share with them some wisdom that's coming through? How do you feel? You feel good, right? So your words themselves are a vibration. And depending on the intention behind our words, depending on the, not just the intention, but the energy that's within what I'm saying. Like, for example, I could say something to you which sounds wonderful, but it's completely opposite of who I am. And so as I'm speaking it, I may have a good intention, but you might be thinking hypocrite, right? So you won't absorb. So one thing is the intention, but another thing is the integrity in what we speak, right? So having that much value for what comes out of my mouth, that's what it means to have a spiritual mouth. That I realize that my words have the power to incite feelings in others, to create positive thoughts in others, to uplift other people, right? And a lot of the time, because we're in the habits of how the world is, we will get into these patterns with people, especially people that we're familiar with, like your spouse or your parent or your child or your friend, someone you've been around a long time. And they kind of become the sounding board for your mind. You're so familiar with this person, you almost forget that they're not you and you're not them, and you sort of forget the value of your words with them. So your complaining thoughts in your mind suddenly come out through your mouth to them all the time, because they're your sounding board, right? And nothing wrong in expressing how you feel. But especially when we're in close connection with souls, that's when the real test is of how I use my words. Because we either get into patterns with particular souls of, let's say, gossiping, for example, which would definitely be evil, right? Because I would be speaking evil, because my words not only are, I'm having negative thoughts, negative energy, I'm speaking negatively about someone. That negative energy I'm speaking is going into someone else's mind and now creating negative thoughts in them. And then those thoughts are going on to the person I'm speaking about, because this is all energy, right? So, but we can get into certain habits with certain people. And I think a big one is the thing of complaining. And we might not even think we're complaining, or it may seem really innocent. We might not mean to be complaining. But naturally, what's in our mind, it starts just flowing out through our mouth. There isn't like a proper valve, you know? So that's one area I really noticed it, was with the people closest to me, that I have this tendency, like I don't have an issue with sharing. I'm like an open book. Some people are the opposite. So for me, whatever comes into my mind, I just say it. right? Just like constantly expressing. And then I realized that, no matter how much time I spend with this person, day in and day out, they deserve to hear only the best words from my mouth. Because otherwise, why shouldn't I let them be in silence? Why shouldn't I allow them to be in their own original state of peace and be having their own thoughts? Why should my noise be constantly bombarding their space, right? With my every thought or, like that. And even that person that you live with or around a lot, they may not complain because they love you. They care for you. So they want to hear your thoughts. But it still doesn't mean that every word that's coming out is benefiting the space, is benefiting the person, is benefiting the situation, right? If I keep repeating things. So really knowing the value of our words, it's something that I'm growing to learn more and more. In Raj Yoga, there's so many seniors, like you'll see Gita Ben here and others in different places, but it seems like the more deep they are within the knowledge, if you call them to talk, even if you have to talk about some program, but it's like there's like a fountain coming out of their mouth of very elevated things that they're saying. And it's not like they're sitting there and trying to do that. It's not like they're thinking, or a person who is sharing wisdom is thinking, oh, everyone that comes in front of me, I have to say these things. But what is that the result of? That's what they're thinking about. So naturally, what you're thinking about creates what you're speaking about, right? So you really come to understand in that sense, when someone is speaking, where is the mind? What we say is a direct reflection of our mind and our heart also. So if the words I'm speaking are not giving me life and not giving my partner life and my friends life and more energy, more positive energy, then it means that much percentage of my time, my thoughts are going into waste, ordinary, complaining, and that's why that percentage that's coming out of my mouth is like that. And so the gauge is the other way too. If whenever I open my mouth, it's a high quality, then it's because that's the way I'm internally functioning, right? And that's why within Raj Yoga there's knowledge and there's yoga. There's the union with your divine self and with God. Because knowledge is one thing, right? We can all talk about this topic, how to have a spiritual mouth, how to create positive karma through our mouth, how to uplift others with our words and not reduce their energy or take them down. We can talk about that, that's the knowledge, right? But the yoga, our meditation, our silence time, and connecting with God's divine energy is what gives the soul the strength and the purity to do that, right? Because to have a stage where eventually all my words are like, just imagine your words as images. Imagine if every sentence that came out created a painting. What would those paintings look like? What does our creation look like? And when those words that come out are beautiful paintings, that uplift and inspire, and beautiful pictures we're creating, then we know, okay, because of my spiritual practice, I've been able to create this very clean mind and heart, my original divine mind and heart that's very pure, right? And because of that, now what flows from my heart to my mind and out of my mouth, they're all very benevolent things. And so that connection, what our connection with God reminds us is how pure we are. And at the core of the self is this eternal bliss. And in that bliss, there is no complaints, there's no even questions. There's just trust. And there's bliss. So as I connect with that ever blissful one, I start to reabsorb that. That's the yoga. And then the knowledge makes more sense. And as I have more meditation, connecting in, I have more strength as the soul to implement the knowledge, right? Because if I know everything but I don't have the power to do it, then it's not of value to me, right? And the beauty about the spiritual journey is we don't have to be alone on that journey. It doesn't have to be a struggle, you know. We have a partner, and that's God. God is our guide to take us back to the beings that have very spiritual senses. And when we're in that fully divine form, we won't even have the concept spiritual senses. Just naturally we are that, right? How I look through these eyes is in a divine way, benevolent way. It uplifts others. How I speak through this mouth, what I speak, how much I speak. It all has purpose. And how I listen through the ears, you know. One thing about, how many of you have had the meditation classes here? You didn't, do you? You did, yeah.
Level 1.
You did, yeah. So we talk about, there's a lesson called the cycle of time, and we talk about the golden age. Golden age is remembered by most religions as a time of heaven or happiness or perfection. And we talk about golden age, Satyug means age of truth, time of truth. And that is basically when human beings knew that they are spiritual beings. And instead of living on this earth as a human being with a spirit, they live on this earth as the spirit, knowing that they're playing a part as a human being. But they're very aware that I'm the soul. They don't mistake that I'm the body. And that is the one key to really living our divinity at this time, right? And when we're in that time of truth, the hallmark of that is that nothing is wasted. This is one of the big things, that when we are 100% pure, every word, every thought, every action is of value, and it adds value. It gives our every action. That's why in India, that time is remembered, we have as deities, means like the beings who are always giving. Their hands are not like this, they're like this, right? Because they're full, and their purity allows their thoughts, their words, their actions, everything to be benevolent. So we can see this spectrum of where you can see like a spectrum, like let's say waste and full, not efficiency, but purposeful, accurate, right? So with my thoughts, my words, my deeds, everything, I can see on this spectrum. How much of it is useful, necessary, beneficial, right? That much I'm going back towards my divinity. And as you traverse the spiritual path, you'll see like your virtues increasing. When there's a closeness to God's energy, the reemergence of your own divine energy, you see like more cleanliness. There's just an accuracy that comes into us. And thoughts, words, deeds, and all across the board. And it's not like an effort so much as it's the natural process of bringing that divine energy back into the soul. you know the saying, they have cleanliness is next to godliness, right? So as we come more into our divine self, all those virtues come back, and that cleanliness is not just a physical thing. It's my thoughts, it's my words are clean, my deeds are clean, everything is clean. My vision is clean, everything is very clean. So this is the essence of what it means to have a spiritual mouth, right? So I want you to think about someone you're really close to. Could be your spouse, maybe the person you spend the most time with right now. Could be a parent, a child. And think about what are the quality of the words. If you had like 2 baskets, you had to say these words are, or 4 baskets, with this relationship, what percentage of those words are uplifting and beneficial, new, inspiring, and what portion are useful, necessary, and what portion are wasteful, means I'm repeating myself or I'm complaining, right? And what portion are negative, blaming, criticizing. And maybe that person uses those kind of words with you. So out of defense, you throw them back. It's like a tit for tat. But on the journey to creating a better reality for ourselves and a better karma, we have to take the responsibility. No matter what this other person does, how am I contributing, right? Even if I say nothing, it's better than saying negative and hurtful things, right? It's better to remain in silence than to hurt someone's feelings. And if you have to be honest about something, it doesn't mean, if you're really saying something that needs to be said, it doesn't mean it's necessarily negative. If it's an honesty that has a purpose, right? And maybe you know that they may not like it, but you say it in a way that's not out of anger. You say it with the right intention to help. Then you can put that usually in the useful side, right? Or even benevolent. Depends on what it is, right? So if we could take these 4 baskets, what is uplifting in my words, what is negative in my words with this person, I can see which side is weighing more. And how much more we could actually benefit our own self and that soul if where all those negative and wasteful and oversaid words are, if we put silence. Now imagine what will happen. Suddenly all the beneficial and necessary things I have to say have a lot more importance. Right? Okay, let's take a moment of meditation. a lot of times with the people closest to us, we have to repeat ourselves. You know, what did you say? Or you say something and they don't respond, and you know they're right there, but they just tuned you out. You have to repeat, or they say, what? Because the words, somewhere out of self-protection of their energy, they've learned to tune us out. Because if everything we said to that person were useful, necessary, positive, they would listen very intently. But because so much of the time it's been unnecessary or wasteful or negative or complaining side, they sometimes listen, they sometimes don't. Because there's lots of extra words in there all the time. So they're like, it's probably not important. They just stay focused on what they're doing. But if those words get out of the picture more and more, and there's a lot more silence in the relationship, so both people can hear their own inner voice, stay in their own meditative space, creative space. When you speak, it will be given so much value, right? So this is one of the beautiful lessons I'm learning in one of my relationships, is how to put on that valve, right? And not just constantly speak my mind, and put more value in the words I'm speaking, even though that may be my closest confidant. They don't have to know every thought I'm having, right? Not that I tell them every thought, but even so, whatever I tell them, it's too much. So I'm learning how to value their time more, value their mind, value their silent space, that silent bubble of their own, and how to give them that space and give myself more silence, right? So in a sense, on one side, we can take people for granted and just constantly sort of be in their space in different ways, without even regard to energetically how I'm having an effect on that person. But then I can have that kind of self-respect where I give myself more silence, and when I speak, I become aware that, is this adding energy to the situation, to the person, to myself? And that would be using the mouth in a very conscious, aware way, right? To speak, it's like in one of our classes we say to speak spiritual roses, as if there's a rose coming out of your mouth. So when I talk, it should be like giving fragrance to other people, okay? You'll notice I noticed this in my grandparents on one side, that their relationship had grown into just a barrage of complaining. If you've ever seen a relationship like that. And constantly, at each other with complaints. And it's easy to get into a state like that because you get into a certain groove with somebody, or you kind of take them for granted, or maybe there's an old feelings you're harboring towards them, or you feel like a victim, or whatever it is, but in some way internally you feel bad. So when you speak it out through your mouth, the complaint, you feel some release of energy. But do we think what that release of energy is doing to the atmosphere, or to that other person's soul? Because as much we complain, one thing is general complaints. But when someone you're close to, when you're complaining even generally, they will feel responsible for you. They will feel bad that you're unhappy. But then when the complaints become targeted, it's more like criticism. If that soul is not very strong, we beat down with our words that other person. And this can be very dangerous for children, or for adults that are still children. They who don't have their full sense of self yet, of self-respect or purpose. And so there isn't that spiritual maturity, and that is the case for a lot of us. So our words have this capacity to give life to people, to uplift, to unite, or they equally have the capacity to reduce someone's self-esteem, right? And that is why a lot of people as adults have to reparent themselves, because our parents or the parents don't always realize the value of their words on the small little innocent minds of the children. And some people got very fortunate and they had wonderful parents who didn't misuse the power of speech, right? So, but a lot of times that's not the case, that parents themselves haven't realized how these words can affect the soul at a young age. So then what happens is, as we grow up, we're trying to learn kind of a new dynamic with words, with people. We're trying to, as adults, understand what is normal and healthy. So if our parents were always in the complaining, criticizing mode, it'll be very natural for what? For someone to, the child to then do what when they grow up?
Do the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. This is normal. Constantly complaining. This is how we communicate what we feel. So even though the child doesn't want to take that atmosphere and recreate it, but that's what can happen, right? Because they learn this is how we use our words. The most powerful thing is always silence. If we're sitting with someone and we're saying something, even if we're arguing, and they're just silent, they're deep in silence, it's so powerful. And they're taking time to think what their response will be. Because most of the time we don't consciously speak. And maybe that's not true for everybody. Some people probably very consciously speak and consciously think. But a lot of the times it can be just a knee-jerk reaction based on my past interactions, right? The way I respond.
Yeah. Especially with people who are closer, people that you're closer to. I think it seems like that happens much more frequently with those people. That automated response, response without thinking, as opposed to sometimes if people you don't know as well. At least I've noticed. I think I tend to think a little bit more. So, but,
right. Yeah, and on one side of that, it's we keep a mask on. We don't know. We on one side we present our best self, which is a good thing. On the other side, we're not as vulnerable and comfortable to show the other parts of our personality, right? So when there's familiarity, it's really easy that whatever wasteful thoughts and feelings or negative thoughts and feelings are in my own self that I constantly think, it becomes very easy to just direct that at the people closest to me. That's why when people are angry, it's never really about the person they're yelling at, because there are so many ways to express something. If I don't like the way you did something, I could say, sweetheart, this is not the way we should do it. Or there's so many ways. So if I'm screaming that same thing, how dare you, that's a reflection. The anger is a reflection of my internal state of imbalance and frustration, right? It's not what the other person did. That's my own Now, there are instances where you would say that to get upset or to stand up for things is the right thing to do. There is a time when you have to face things, right? And like if somebody was attacking someone you love, you would get upset and you would get them, right? You would do whatever you could. You bring out all your fire to protect, and that would be correct at that time. But most of the time when we use force, it's not in life and death situations. We pull it out as an outlet of our own internal frustration, and that harms other people. Yeah, the words, you know, when they talk about verbal abuse can be just as harmful as other kinds of abuse.
I think it's sometimes even worse.
Right.
Yeah, because it has this, people don't even realize that maybe something that you experienced or something that was said that might be driving them, but it goes into subconscious level.
Right.
Something physical, I think you can kind of forget after a while. You know, your body heals or something. So
yeah, with physical, you might have a flinch left when someone comes to hug you. Definitely there will be some trauma associated with physical abuse, fear of touch, so many things. But yeah, verbal abuse, meaning just random taking out my own frustration through my words on other people without being able to deal with my own emotions in a mature way, creates real self-esteem issues. And you know, our core worthiness, our self-esteem is the foundation of everything. If I don't feel worthy, if I don't feel like I have self-respect, it's very hard for me to really do something with my life, right? And words have the capacity to chip away and really reduce our self-esteem and so many other things. Yeah, so words are powerful things. They're like, it can be like an axe, or words can be like a flower, or words could be like an arrow in a positive way also. You know, you could shoot an arrow of knowledge and it just suddenly something and someone wakes up. It hits them, you know. So knowing our words can be like arrows, or our words can be like a gift. You know, we putting that importance on the power of words. That is how we spiritualize the mouth, and we use it more consciously, and we make our mouth basically this portal for beauty, to create beauty in the world. So let's do a meditation where we visualize what's coming out of our mouth in beautiful ways and see how that creates reality. Okay. So take a nice deep breath. Om Shanti. And slowly, just first allow your entire physical body to release all the tension. So bring your attention to each part and allow it to relax. So let's bring our awareness to our feet. Breathe in peace to that area, and now allow them to relax on the exhale. Take in a deep breath and bring awareness to your calves. Breathe in peace, and on the exhale, allow them to completely relax. Breathe in peace into your knees and thighs. And on the exhale, allow them to relax. Breathe in peace and awareness to your hips. And on the exhale, allow them to relax. Breathe in peace to your belly, your lower back. And on the exhale, release any tension. Breathe in peace and awareness to your chest and upper back. And as you exhale, just relax your upper back. Breathe in awareness and peace to your arms and shoulders. And as you exhale, allow them to completely relax. Breathe in awareness to your neck. And as you exhale, allow it to relax. Breathe in awareness and peace to your face and scalp. And as you breathe out, allow them to relax. And just scan your entire body, and if there's still tension pulling somewhere, take your attention to that spot. And ask it if it needs something from you. And just give it whatever it needs in this moment. And now bring your awareness to the center of your forehead, where you, the beautiful soul, reside. The conscient being, the creator, the artist, and the master. And we're going to see the value of our words in different ways. So let's imagine that there is a music bar in front of us, like a scale, a musical sheet, musical notes. And imagine that you're speaking to someone. And as you speak, the words that flow out of your mouth create music on this page, like they're writing music into the air. That your words are like this melody that brings the beat back in someone's step, that energizes them. So keep seeing this energy coming out of your mouth, these words that are creating this amazing song. And these words could be saying anything that creates beautiful music, that gives someone a reason to dance. And now imagine that as you speak, there are waves coming out of your mouth. Your words are rolling into beautiful rolling waves. And as these waves come out of your mouth, they're refreshing, everyone you're speaking to. They're giving life. They're like this breath of fresh air. Your mouth becomes like a river. And this river goes along and it brings life to the dry lands. Your words bring greenery and life to those you're speaking to. Vital energy. And now imagine that you're speaking and that your words roll out to create roses. Those words are turning and turning into petals that circle around each other. And every sentence you're speaking creates a flower. And you take those flowers individually or as a bouquet and you hand them to people. These very fragrant, colorful, happy, beautiful words. And some may be flowers of love. And some may be flowers of honesty. And some may be flowers of silliness. But every flower made from your words is purposeful, loving intentions, and powerful. And now that you've given so much, take a moment inside your own inner being, the sanctuary of your own mind, and see an image of yourself there in your mind. You can see yourself as an adult or as a child, or both. Or you could be the adult speaking to your child, or you can be the child speaking to your adult version. But in your mind, speak to this image of you, whether it's the small you or the big you. And silently, internally, share some words with yourself. Words that are like flowers and waves and music that you need to hear from yourself right now. In fact, this is the best conversation you can have. These conversations in silence. Inside with your own inner being and with God. So now take a moment and connect with the Supreme Light, the Supreme Being. And share some inner, externally silent but internally powerful words with that one. And see if you feel a response energetically. And so now we're seeing the power of dialogue within the mind. Drop down into your heart center. Even if you were there already, drop further into the heart, out of the mind. And share some words from your heart with the Supreme. And share some words from the heart with yourself. And absorb these words. And recognize that the inner dialogue that we have with ourselves and with God is going to be the same dialogue we have with other people. So as we connect in more to our own pure light and God's light, we will spread light and might through our speaking. And our words will become music. That make others dance. And whatever happiness others receive from what I share, that happiness bounces back. And I ride the wave of that happiness. So a positive outflow is a positive inflow. And this is how I master my reality. Om Shanti. So let's take this mantra this week for ourselves. I am a divine being. And what kind of words do I have as a divine being? And we can practice together.